Miami Heat missed out this NBA offseason by not making a big-time trade. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. And the player that the Heat missed out on is actually one that we talked about quite a while on the offseason, and that is Trae Young. Trae Young, the point guard from the Atlanta Hawks, who still remains on the roster, was very much on the trade market this NBA offseason, but was not dealt. His counterpart, Dejounte Murray, was traded away from Atlanta to New Orleans. And there are still reports out there that signify Trae Young was there for the taking, that if teams expressed enough interest in the former top 5 pick, that he would be traded away from Atlanta and the Hawks would enter a full rebuild after having the number 1 overall pick. But evidently no one showed interest enough to get him away from the Atlanta Hawks team. And I got some thoughts on the matter, and we'll share a quote and some reporting from Tim MacMahon as well, which disappointed me. But before we get into that and more on Trae Young with the Miami Heat, I want to know your thoughts on the matter. Should the Heat have traded for Trae Young this offseason? Type Y if you think they should have. Type N if you're okay with how things played out. ESPN's Tim MacMahon came in with this report a couple of days ago that the simple fact of the matter is if there was a real market for Trae Young, he'd be somewhere else right now. It's not like they got some kind of wild blockbuster return for Dejounte Murray. And he mentions Murray because I actually think Dejounte Murray's return for Atlanta wasn't that strong, and it felt like it would have been the same for Trae Young in terms of not getting what he likely would have gotten a couple years ago. Like, Trae's value is absolutely in the gutter right now. And I think you could have got him for a relatively cheap price if you're Miami in terms of players that could have the same impact as him on your basketball team. I'm not going to come up here and say that he's as good or better than a Donovan Mitchell type. That's simply not the case. But Trae Young is one of the most dynamic offensive players in the entire NBA. And yeah, I know there's concerns about his efficiency, concerns about his defense, but you can't debate the pure numbers. Averaging 10 assists a game over the last 4 seasons is absolutely ludicrous, but you're also getting a 25-point-per-game scorer. This is someone who, yes, the offense has run through him quite a lot, but he legitimately, at minimum, accounts for 45, 50 points a game with his assists and scoring. Like, he is going to score the basketball for your team, whether it's creating for others or creating for himself. And that's something Miami has desperately needed, right? An offensive juggernaut to help Bam and Jimmy. And that's why I think Trae would have worked on this basketball team, is because you could have hid Trae Young's defensive liabilities and his inefficiencies on that end a little bit when you're pairing him up with Bam and Jimmy on the basketball court. It is truly something that I believe Pat Riley should have went after, and I do understand a little bit of the pushback on why they shouldn't have done it, right? His contract is terrible. It really is. For a player who many people don't know if he can be a top 1 or top 2 guy on a championship team, getting paid this much money is a little bit of a disaster. Now, I will come on here and say that Trae Young wasn't going to be a top 2 player on your team, right? Like, he's the 3rd guy. When you rank the players on the Heat roster, it would have still been Bam and Jimmy at the top, and then Trae Young as your 3rd guy. But getting paid 43, 48, and then damn near $50 million if he accepts that player option, which you would assume he would, or maybe he opts out and tries to get a bigger contract, depending on how he goes the next 2 years. But either way, you would have had Trae Young on this team for 2 years at minimum with a lot of salary accounting for it. And maybe if they made a trade, it would have hard capped them. It would have got them really close to that second apron, which we know Miami did not want to cross whatsoever. And I understand not wanting to cross it because there are a lot of penalties with it, but Trae Young really would have raised the ceiling on this Heat team with Jimmy and Bam. More on the matter coming up in a second, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app with more than 5 million active members right now. And with football starting this weekend, make sure you get your entries. But you can also go to the basketball world as well and take some season-long projections like the one I have of Bam Adebayo, more than 9.9 rebounds, more than 6.8 assists for Jalen Brunson, and less than on the Atlanta Hawks' #1 overall pick, Zachary Rissache. Caleb Williams is actually a really cool deal for you right now on PrizePicks. 1 passing yard. 1 gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend. It's September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss out on the deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. Want to play PrizePicks also alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Makes playing daily fantasy sports so much fun, and you don't have to play other people. All you do is play the numbers. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, as we continue the conversation here with Trae Young, I think the Heat missed a pretty big opportunity to really improve their roster. We've talked about how the Heat could have gotten him for a much cheaper price tag than what a player of his caliber usually goes for. And the Heat have always been a team that needed guard help and a team that needed someone to help distribute for others and not have to put so much responsibility on Trae Young, on Bam Adebayo, on Jimmy Butler, on Bam Adebayo. And Trae Young would have helped alleviate that pressure. I get it. I know the defensive concerns are there. But when you looked at what the Heat have needed the most and what they have fallen short with over the past 5 seasons, it's always been offense. The failure to be able to outscore your opponent and have a player outside of Jimmy and Bam give you consistent scoring output in the postseason. Trae Young would have done that, but he also would have helped create life easier for your franchise player, Bam Adebayo, in the pick and roll. And he also would have helped the development of rookie center Kel'el Ware if you traded for Trae Young. Because think about Young running pick and rolls with Ware. Ware is such a strong lob threat, a vertical athlete. You want to talk about how Kel'el Ware can have a rookie-type center impact like Derek Lively with the Mavericks last year? Well, why was Derek Lively so impactful? It's because he had Kyrie and Luka Doncic feeding him lobs and easy passes, rim running on the pick and roll. Trae Young would have done that for Kel'el Ware and helped him have a larger impact on this Heat team this upcoming season. Like, it would have been such a good move for Miami to acquire Young offensively, and it would not have costed you a lot. We talked about it with MacMahon's update about not having that strong of a trade market, his gutter value right now, where you're probably buying Trae Young at the lowest value that it would ever be, because there is no way to me that he actually gets worse in trade value based off his play. So it would not have costed you that much, and I think the Heat should have gone in on a Trae Young trade. Now, coming up in just a second, I will show you what I believe a Trae Young trade would have looked like, and still technically could look like, by the way. But make sure you are subscribed because we cover all Miami Heat trade rumors, news, it doesn't matter. And with a month until training camp begins, we'll have you covered on everything coming out of camp for the Miami Heat. So make sure you are subscribed. Let's get to 14K before the season gets underway. This is what a trade I think would have looked like for Miami a month ago, but still could look like right now if they decide to revisit a Trae Young trade, right? I think Hero is obviously someone who's going to have to be traded in a package for Young. They would need someone in their backcourt that can be a scorer. Hero's also relatively young, got decent value right now. Duncan Robinson, I think, would go with just to match salary of Trae Young's $43 million this year. You would actually save $5 million if you're Miami. You're shedding $48 million in salary for this season, and you're getting $43 in return. And I think 2 second-round picks. Maybe that gets upgraded to a first-round pick, but 2 second-round picks is kind of similar in 2026 with the Lakers pick and then your own 2031. Will the Hawks accept that? I don't know. But I think it's where his Trae Young value would be right now and a month ago, like MacMahon said. And if this offer could have gotten the deal done, I would have pulled the trigger. And a lot of you are asking, well, what would you do with Terry Rozier? Well, that's the beautiful thing about this situation. If you did make this trade now, or if you did, you would have been able to either just cement Terry Rozier into your six-man role, or you would have bought yourself time to deal Terry Rozier away for maybe a forward, maybe more wings, maybe just draft capital to help you out at the trade deadline. It would have provided you a lot of flexibility to either have one of the top 6 men in the NBA or just allow you to make a different deal and get more assets in return. I think the Heat missed out on a massive opportunity to trade for Trae Young, and I can say they maybe did miss out, yeah, because maybe they could still go out and make a move for Trae Young. Do I think that's on the table and on the cards? Probably not, but I think it should be. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff for more Miami Heat content every single day. In between videos, we got you covered over there, so go give me a follow, and I'll see you tomorrow in another video. Go Heat.